The clock in the small kitchen ticked louder than usual that Sunday morning. Nora moved slowly, her thin hands trembling as she poured hot tea into 2 cups. She placed one across the table, the cup that hadn't been touched for 6 years. The cup that still belonged to her daughter, Emma, outside. The street was alive with laughter and family sounds. It was Mother's Day. But inside Nora's little house, only the hum of the refrigerator answered her sighs. She sat down and whispered softly, "Happy Mother's Day, sweetheart." Her own voice broke. The other chair remained empty, a memory she couldn't escape. Nora's mind drifted back to the last day they had spoken. Emma had been 26, bright, ambitious, and angry at everything that reminded her of her past. They had argued about something small as a dropped plate, but words had turned sharp and unforgiving. Greater than. "You never listen, Mom," Emma shouted, eyes red with exhaustion. "You always think you know what's best for me?" Nora, proud and hurt, had crossed her arms. "Greater than. Because I've lived this life longer. Emma, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. Maybe I want to make my own mistakes." That was it. That one sentence had become a wall between them. Emma had left, slamming the door so hard that the picture of Nora's late husband fell from the wall. It shattered just like something inside Nora that day. 6 years of silence. Birthdays passed. Weddings, new jobs, new apartments, all came and went without a single call. Nora wrote letters she never sent. She saved newspaper cuttings of nurses being promoted, imagining Emma's name among them. Sometimes she'd walk past the hospital just to feel closer to her. Once she saw Emma from a distance, confident, in her white coat, laughing with colleagues. Nora had hidden behind a tree, watching her daughter walk away, alive and happy. But without her, that night, she cried quietly into her pillow. A neighbor's visit. A knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Mrs. Keller, her elderly neighbor, holding a small bouquet. "Greater than. You shouldn't spend Mother's Day alone, Nora," she said gently. "Come join me for lunch?" Nora smiled faintly. "Greater than. Thank you, dear, but I'm fine. Really, I've already set the table." Mrs. Keller looked at the 2 teacups, then back at Nora's trembling smile. She said nothing more, just touched Nora's shoulder and left quietly. A letter never sent. That evening, Nora took out her floral stationery, the same one she had used for Emma's letters long ago. She began to write again, slowly, carefully. "My dearest Emma, I don't know if you still think of me, but I think of you every single day. I still make your favorite tea. I still keep your room clean. I even kept the silly sweater you hated because it made you look like Christmas. You were right that day. Maybe I never listened enough. Maybe I let my pride speak louder than my love. If you ever read this, I want you to know one thing. You were never a disappointment. You were my reason to keep going." She folded the letter neatly and placed it inside an envelope. On the front she wrote, "For Emma, whenever you're ready to come home." Then she placed it beside the second teacup. The chair across from her still waited. Meanwhile, miles away, Emma was sitting in her apartment, surrounded by noise, TV on, phone buzzing, but her mind empty. She had received a text reminder, "Mother's Day today, send flowers." She stared at it for a long time. Her boyfriend asked casually, "You're gonna call your mom?" "No," she said too quickly. "We don't talk." But when she went to bed that night, guilt crept in like a shadow. Something inside her whispered that time was running out. The next morning began like any other in the city. Traffic noise, rushing footsteps, the blur of people with coffee cups and headphones. Emma was one of them. Her life moved fast, full of deadlines and empty victories. But that morning, something felt heavier. She couldn't explain why, but her heart ached for reasons she couldn't name. She poured herself coffee and looked at her phone, countless unread messages. Except one that made her freeze. The call. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Greater than." "Hello?" A woman's gentle voice came through. "Greater than. Is this Emma Carter?" "Yes, speaking. This is Mrs. Keller, your mother's neighbor. I don't know how to say this, dear." There's been an accident. Emma's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. Greater than what kind of accident? She fell this morning. The doctors are doing their best, but you should come quickly. Emma's breath caught. All the years of silence suddenly felt like weight on her chest, greater than which hospital? She whispered. The journey back. The road to her hometown felt longer than ever. Every mile pulled her deeper into memories, her mother's laughter, their Sunday breakfast, her stubbornness, their fights. By the time she reached the small hospital, her hands were shaking. She ran to the reception desk. Greater than Nora Carter. Room number? The nurse looked up. Greater than. Are you family? I'm her daughter. The nurse's face softened. Greater than. I'm sorry, sweetheart. She's in critical care, but you can see her. The first look after 6 years. Emma entered the room quietly. The smell of disinfectant filled her lungs, and the rhythmic beeping of machines broke the silence. There, on the hospital bed, lay the woman who had once been her whole world. Nora looked smaller, frailer, her hair silver, her face pale but peaceful. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She took her mother's hand, cold and fragile, into hers. Greater than. Mom! It's me, she whispered. I'm here. A single tear slipped from Nora's closed eyes. Maybe a dream. Maybe recognition. Emma leaned closer. Greater than. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have called. I should have come sooner. Her voice broke into sobs. Greater than. You were right about everything. About love. About family. I thought I needed space, but I just needed you. She pressed her forehead against her mother's hand, crying like a child. The letter. Later that night, Mrs. Keller arrived at the hospital carrying a small brown envelope. Greater than. She asked me to give you this, Emma. She wrote it last night. Emma stared at the handwriting, shaky but unmistakable. She opened it slowly. Inside was the same letter Nora had written the night before. Her mother's words hit her like waves. Greater than. My dearest Emma, I still make your favorite tea. I still keep your room clean. You were never a disappointment. You were my reason to keep going. Tears blurred the ink. Emma pressed the paper to her chest, whispering, I'm here, Mom. I got your letter. Please don't go yet. A brief awakening. For a fleeting moment, Nora's eyes opened. Her gaze found Emma. A faint smile curved her lips. Greater than. You came home. Emma nodded, crying. Greater than. I'm so sorry, Mom. No, my love, Nora whispered weakly. You're here. That's all I wanted. Her hand gently brushed Emma's cheek. A gesture of forgiveness stronger than any words. And then, her hand fell still. The machine beeped once. Then flatlined. The empty room. Emma stood frozen as doctors rushed in. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her mother's hand slipped from hers. The same hand that had once held hers through every nightmare, every fever, every heartbreak. Mrs. Keller held Emma tightly, whispering, She waited for you, dear. She wanted to see you one last time. Emma buried her face in the old woman's shoulder, her sobs echoing down the sterile hallway. Back home. That evening, Emma returned to her mother's house. Everything looked the same. The lace curtains, the ticking clock, the 2 teacups on the table. One of them was still full, still waiting. Emma sat down, clutching the letter again. The cup across from her was untouched, the empty chair now heavier than ever. She whispered through her tears, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with love, regret, and the echoes of 1,000 unspoken words. The house was quieter than Emma remembered. Even the ticking clock seemed slower, as if time itself mourned with her. She stood in the doorway of her old room, the one her mother had kept untouched for 6 years. The bedspread was neatly folded, her childhood books arranged in perfect order, and on the nightstand a photo of her and Nora from years ago. They were laughing, faces pressed together, sunlight on their cheeks. Emma touched the frame and felt her throat tighten. Greater than. You never stopped waiting, did you? She whispered. The diary. While cleaning, Emma found a small leather-bound diary under her mother's pillow. The pages smelled faintly of lavender, Nora's favorite scent. Emma hesitated, then opened it. Greater than January 3rd, I dreamt of Emma today. She was little again, asking for pancakes. I woke up crying. May 12th, her birthday. I baked a cake, blew the candles alone. November 20th. I saw her near the hospital. She looked happy. I didn't want to disturb her life. April 25th. My heart feels weaker, but if she ever comes back, I'll make her tea, like old times. Each line sliced through Emma's heart. Every word was a confession of love she had ignored. She clutched the diary to her chest, tears spilling freely. Greater than. You were here all along, Mom, and I was too blind to see it. The last letter. At the back of the diary was another envelope, yellowed and sealed. On it was written, "For Emma, after I'm gone." Her hands trembled as she opened it. Greater than. My sweet girl. If you're reading this, I'm already home. Not the house, but somewhere peaceful. Don't carry guilt with you. It's too heavy, and I never wanted my love to become your burden. Promise me you'll live. Really live. Smile when you remember me. Drink your tea. Chase your dreams. And when you sit at the table, leave the other chair empty, not out of sadness, but as a reminder that love never truly leaves. Mom! Emma pressed the letter to her lips, whispering, I promise. The farewell. At the funeral, soft rain fell over the small garden cemetery. Mrs. Keller stood beside Emma, holding an umbrella while Emma placed a single white lily on the grave. Greater than. Thank you, Mom, she whispered, for waiting, for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. A gentle breeze passed through the trees, carrying the scent of tea leaves and lavender. For a moment, Emma felt warmth brush against her cheek, like a mother's caress. She smiled through her tears. Greater than. I know you're here. 6 months later, Emma moved back into the house. She didn't change much, only added her own touches. Every morning she brewed 2 cups of tea and placed one across the table. She no longer cried every day. Some mornings she even smiled. When neighbors visited, they often found her talking softly to the empty chair. Greater than. She still thinks you're listening, Mrs. Keller once said. I know she is, Emma replied. The healing. One evening, as sunset painted the kitchen gold, Emma sat down to write, not a diary, but a letter. Greater than, Dear Mom, you were right. Time doesn't erase love, it only teaches us how to carry it. I've started volunteering at the hospital. Helping others feels like helping you. Every time someone smiles because of me, I think it's you smiling back. I miss you, but I've stopped being afraid of missing you. Because now I know love doesn't end. It just changes its seat. She placed the letter beside the same teacup her mother had once poured. The cup was empty, but her heart was full. Epilogue. Years later, Emma sat with her own daughter at that same kitchen table. The little girl giggled and asked, Mama, who's that cup for? Emma smiled softly. Greater than. It's for Grandma, sweetheart. She likes to sit with us sometimes. The child nodded seriously and whispered to the chair, Hi, Grandma. And for the first time in many years, Emma felt peace. Not the silence of loss, but the quiet comfort of love that had never truly left. The chair was still empty, but the space around it was filled with light. The end.